Hi guys, welcome to the Wholebrain-SMART Docker installation video for Windows. This video is recommended for those of you having serious installation troubles with Wholebrain directly onto your computer using the original installation instructions. This is also recommended if you want to easily try some of the functions in Wholebrain or SMART before going through the full installation process. If possible, we still recommend installing directly to your computer, as this approach doesn't really allow for future updates of either Wholebrain or SMART. It's really a frozen version of the versions of the packages used to create the Docker image, which we will install today. So let's get started. The first thing we're going to want to do is pull up the website which has been updated with installation instructions. So we're going to want to navigate to sgoldenlab.github.io/smart/installation. Okay, so the next step is to actually install Docker. So we're going to click on the link in the instructions, which will take us to the Docker installation page, and we're going to click Docker Desktop for Windows. And we're going to save the installation file. And once that installation file has finished downloading, we're going to run it. It's also important to note that if your computer needs administrative privileges to install anything, make sure you have your admin username and password, because those are key for the rest of the steps. So I'm going to go ahead and enter in my information and skip over this part. Okay, once you've entered your information, the installer will get to this configuration page. And normally I just accept all defaults. Importantly, you want to make sure install required Windows components for WSL2 is checked. Once my installation has finished, I'm going to close out of these windows and I'm going to launch Docker Desktop. So it's possible when you launch Docker Desktop for the first time that the WSL installation may be incomplete. So it's important to follow the instructions to properly install that, which may require a desktop restart before Docker Desktop will appropriately launch. Just make sure to follow all of the instructions in the pop-up. And great, now I see that Docker is up and running and it's working correctly. The next step I'm going to do is I'm going to launch a Windows terminal with administrative privileges. Then we're going to go back to the installation webpage and copy and paste the following command: docker pull mgen1812/Wholebrain-SMART. And this is just going to pull the Wholebrain-SMART Docker image from the Docker Hub registry. Okay, everything has finished downloading. Right now I'm just typing the command docker images, which will list out all of the Docker images that I have, including those I've recently downloaded, and everything looks right. So the next step is to download a Windows X server. So we're going to go back to the tutorial page and click on the link that says click here under step 4, and this will bring you to a download page. So we're just going to hit download to get the installer file, and once it's finished downloading, we're going to launch it and just accept all of the default parameters for installation. After installation, we're going to go ahead and launch an X server. And again, we're going to accept most of the defaults, but once you get to a window that says extra settings, we're going to make sure that disable access control is checked. And so every time you want to use this Docker container, you're going to make sure that this X server is launched and you have disable access control checked. In the next step, we're going to find out our IPv4 address. So we can do this in Windows by typing the command ipconfig into terminal and just copy and pasting what we find into a text file. Great, now we have everything we need to run an instance of our Docker image as a container. So we're going to go back to the installation page and we're going to highlight the command that starts with docker run. And I'm also just going to copy and paste that command into our notepad so that we can easily edit it. We're just going to copy our IPv4 address that we found, and we're going to set it to the display variable within the command. And then once we do that, we're going to copy and paste that command into the terminal and run it. Okay, now that it's running, all we have to do is go to localhost port 8787, and we should have our studio running up. So let's check that. And we can also use the library command to load up the Wholebrain package. And great, it loads. And if we go back to the installation page, we can copy and paste this command and just test the segmentation function on an example image that comes with the Wholebrain package. And we can see that the X forwarding is working. And so the last thing I want to cover is how to mount a volume with data on your host computer so that it is accessible from the Docker container. And that's done using the V, or the volume flag. In this particular command that I'm copying from the installation page, I've mapped a path to a folder named My Project, which is using my C drive as a root directory. And I'm mapping it to a folder with the same name using the home folder as a root directory within my Docker container. So I'm just going to copy and run this command with the appropriate drive mappings. And once it's running, I'm going to go back to localhost at port 8787. And now you can see from my Docker container that my project folder is accessible, and all of the imaging data that I want access to from my container is available for me to use Smart or Wholebrain on.